Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gaiman, and this is your round 3 recap of the Tour Championship. Joining me to break it all down, we'll bring them in one at a time, coming all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, Mark Himmelman. Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Great. I was looking forward to catching up with you guys. It's the last few days have been fantastic, and I almost had a little deja vu moment for a little while on the golf course there this afternoon when I felt like I was back in Boston. Watching Dustin in the final group just go bananas on the weekend and shoot 64. So he did 64, 63 at Boston. I'm wondering if he's going to love his 63 at the Boys tomorrow and just win at a canter. It's been crazy.
It has been crazy. Also, Kyle Porter. Kyle, are we going to get another 18-hole victory lap from DJ on Monday?
I think probably so. I'm supposed to be a professional. I'm supposed to be analyzing this stuff, watching, whatever. And all I can think about on Sunday, Rick, is how I had DJ available in our one and done league, and I didn't pick him. And I don't really. And I think it was one of those things where I thought like, oh, well, everybody else will pick him, but you guys had all already used him,
right?
And he's sitting there. He's already at 10 under, and I'm like, I'm going to go with Collin Morikawa instead.
That was the biggest misstep. Although you might get bailed out on it, but it was.
I know.
That is shame. Shame on you. Shame on you, KP.
Yeah, it was not good. What's the situation there? Like how?
Okay, so how much did Greg bid, producer Jacob? Did he bid
$1?
No, I did that.
So did Greg.
Oh, he did? And who did he take?
Xander.
Oh, okay. So you guys can still catch him if your guys finish in the top 3.
That's why I should have taken DJ.
His dad gets in the top 3. Yours truly is styling. And if Jon Rahm gets in the top 3, Jacob, you can get him if you double your money, don't you?
I need a 63 from Morikawa tomorrow. Like I need air to breathe.
See, I went with the $1 because I couldn't catch Greg anyway. I was hoping he was going to mess up the bid too much, lose it, and then I would sneak my way up in there. I would backdoor it if like Daniel Berger won this thing.
I don't know why he bid $1.
That's not right. That was not optimal.
And literally 0 people care about our one and done league, but here we are.
3, 4 people, 5 people could care about our one and done. Let me so happy Sunday night. We sneak into the top 3. I double my money and I lift this thing. It's gonna make my fall the best ever.
You'll be the Bolton Slayer and then the Ducharme Slayer 2 years in a row. Okay, let's do this. DJ, 19 under par, 5-shot lead, Mark. I don't know where to start. He's been in essentially every single final group for the last 5 or 6 weeks. The hole looks like the size of a bucket. I mean, even after shooting a hard-working 70 in the second round, and we were like, oh man, if he can't fix that driver, if he can't hit fairways, it's going to be trouble. Well, he piped it down every single fairway of the day, no problem. Shoots a 64.
You know what? As a professional golfer, as an athlete, really, but especially in golf, it's a luxury to have a short memory. And Dustin Johnson has that just to biblical proportion because there's never any panic in the guy. He's absolutely unflappable. Yes, he ground his way to a round yesterday, and I listened to some of the comments afterwards, and he was like, I didn't drive it very well. I'm going to have to drive it better tomorrow, but I'm not worried. I'm playing well, and I'm feeling good. And you just never see a guy that looks concerned about anything. And then today he comes out there and just sort of gets about things clinically. He hit the ball on the right side of the target a number of times. He was 4 or 5 scrambling, and you add that to a guy that can hit the ball miles off the tee and pretty accurately. I mean, that is an unbeatable combination. The confidence has got to be off the charts right now. I mean, the way he's rolling the golf ball, not only is he making putts, the speed control on the long range stuff is incredible. And so all of his rounds are pretty much stress-free. And the only thing here at Eastlake, number 8, number 15, are basically the only holes where water comes into play. So he's just so stress-free right now. Add that to a stress-free mindset. The guy's cantering, and I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow's a coronation.
We're starting to get into the range of stats that are like the only other person to do this is Tiger Woods, which is usually a good list to be on, KP. So fourth straight start with a 54-hole lead or co-lead, first to do that since Tiger Woods 1999. From Justin Ray, the largest 54-hole lead at Eastlake is 4 shots by Henrik Stenson. This is good. The man who was 4 back that day, DJ. Wow, there's some really good ones here. I mean, he's just doing this 5 weeks of golf has been. I don't. What adjective would you use to describe this last 5 weeks?
Well, it's not an adjective, but it's a joke. I mean, he's been beaten in regulation by Morikawa. That's it at the PGA. He hasn't lost to anybody else over the last 5 weeks, right?
Well, if you count, go ahead, Mark.
Well, it's more than 5 weeks because Wyndham was between the PGA and the Northern Trust. He didn't play there, so you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So 5 weeks, he's lost only to Morikawa. That's it at the PGA. And I mean, the way so 2 things that stood out to me on Sunday. I keep wanting to call it Saturday. My time is all messed up, but. He drove the ball unbelievably. I mean, he didn't drive it well at all on Saturday. He kind of like managed around. I mean, he kind of got it in the house on Saturday. I don't want to say like he saved his event because he had the 10 strokes off the top, but he didn't have his best stuff on Saturday. Sunday he did. And the thing that's really struck me over the last really since the playoffs. And I'm curious if Mark noticed this as well. He's taking a ton of time on some of these putts. You know, DJ is normally like, and this works for him. He's normally just gets up, hits it, gets up. We've joked about that, right? And even with his putting, sometimes it feels like you're like, wait a second, DJ already putted? Like I thought, we just saw his first putt. So I think, and I don't know if that's taking it more seriously. I don't know if he's reading things differently, but I've noticed the time taken with some of these putts. And I think you see him maybe getting another half stroke or a stroke out of that per round. That's just exacerbating how well he's hitting the golf ball.
I agree. I mean, I feel like, sorry, Rick, just real fast. He is taking more time. And I think they've identified the putting stroke is cleaned up a little bit, but I think they've identified perhaps that the green reading was not completely on point because Johnson, a lot more engaged.
Yeah.
Really, Dustin will sort of listen and then pull the trigger. But Austin is involved, Dustin's involved. I mean, I saw situations today where he had missed a green and he was looking in the topography book for the greens to see the slope, almost in an effort to try and leave the pitch shot or the bunker shot or whatever it was in a place where you can have the easiest putt to go ahead and make. And it's just, it's a clinical performance. And it's funny for me to say that because Dustin Johnson and clinical, those 2 words sort of don't jive in a sentence.
Yeah, it certainly has been clinical. We might be spending a lot of time on him Monday night. Let's move on to Xander Schauffele, KP, who's actually winning the shadow leaderboard. Xander's 11 under, which is insane. DJ's 9 under, so Xander's got a 2-shot lead on him heading into Monday. I mean, another guy where I'm running out of ways to describe not only, I mean, I guess how impressed I am with him at Eastlake, how good he's been. He's never shot over par here. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he needs to lobby to have a major at Eastlake because he dominates. He's interesting because I've watched him throughout the week, and there hasn't really been a time where I'm like, oh man, Xander's playing unbelievably right now. He's just he just keeps moving forward. And I think the thing, you look at his numbers, and the thing that's a little, he's making everything. Like, he's putting just lights out. And so you look at Monday and you're like, I don't know, does that continue? Maybe, but it doesn't feel as, I don't feel as good about it as the next guy we're going to talk about, which is JT. So I don't know. Xander's a great ball striker, so it could like snap into place on Sunday, but he hasn't been, I don't think, as crisp with his ball striking, even though he leads, as maybe he has in the past at Eastlake.
Okay. Here's what I see out of Xander Schauffele. Out of all the hole locations today, because this guy doesn't move the ball as easily from left to right as what other people do. He pretty well moves it from right to left.
Yeah.
Left hole location, you saw him play offense. every right hole location, you saw him hit it somewhere to the safe side of the flag. And looking through the round, he was only on the short side of the flag one time. So in other words, he's not going to blow you away statistically, because certain of the hole locations, he was like, nah, I would leave that stuff alone, because you can paper cut yourself very fast over here. And all of a sudden you add 2 or 3 bogeys to the card, and you're not going to pick up a whole bunch of birdies with some of these hole locations. So to me, it was a guy who was hitting the ball just like he needed to, putting it in a place just where he was able to putt. His distance control was impeccable, because with all these shelves and stuff on the greens, he never really had anything that was crazy in terms of reading breaks or uphills and downhills and such. So he was able to sort of putt aggressively, and he's essentially allowing the putter to become the superstar whilst taking the disaster off the scorecard.
Yeah.
And one thing that Eastlake begs you to do, it doesn't beg, it demands that you play patiently and smartly around here. And if you do that, you can, like we've seen Xander, shoot something 66, 65, 64, which he sort of does. And again, you're going to watch this going, well, he's not blowing my socks off, but he's putting together really smart rounds of golf. And the way I would describe it is kind of major championship-esque. He's allowing the other folks to make the mistakes and just plodding his way along. His only problem right now is he's got Dustin Johnson out front by 5.
And that's problematic. I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's a great point, Mark, about, I think it was on 16 where he short-sighted him. It was very late in the round where he was on, he short-sighted himself on one of the holes. And this is something that you miss whenever, Rick and I holler all the time about strokes gained. There's a difference in being 50 feet away from the pin and short-sighting yourself, rather than being 50 feet away from the pin and having an uphill chip that's, you can get up and down pretty easily. That's the thing where you look at all the data and you just miss that unless you're watching the golf. So I think that's a great point. He's only made 2 bogeys over his last 2 rounds. And that's where that's the thing where you just keep moving forward. But again, I mean, running down DJ on Sunday, it's just if Xander or JT or any of these guys win, it's going to be because DJ shot a 72 or 73, which it could happen. It just isn't likely.
Speaking of data, the big data guy of the week, Justin Thomas, who the story's been about his putter, right? Through 2 rounds, we came on here and said he's leading the field in strokes gained tee to green. He's dead last in putting. Now through 3, still leading the field in strokes gained tee to green, and 3rd worst in the field in strokes gained putting. KP, we'll stay here with you on this one because you've been we've been going back and forth on, how many trophies would this guy have if he just putted to tour average even more than he already has. But the broadcast mentioned it. He's grinding hard over the putter. He said it's not a technical thing. It is more about his him reading the greens, and I think he said they're actually a little slower than he anticipated. That's what he's got to get figured out, other than it's actually being some type of flaw in his putting stroke.
Well, he missed a 16-inch putt on Sunday.
He did.
Which I don't know if that's that's not good. That's Ricky Fowler territory at the PGA Championship when he missed the what was it, 7 inches, 5 inches, whatever it was.
The one where he just stubbed his stubbed his putter in there.
That was so bad. But it was interesting because he does that, and then the next hole he makes a 25-footer. So you sort of cancel it out there. He was much better with his putter on Sunday, and this is what I've been hollering about is like, yeah, he's flushing the ball. I mean, he's hitting it so good. Him and Xander both drove it just beautifully on Sunday. I think Xander was top 5 in strokes gained off the tee, and JT was he was 0 off the tee, so he was about average off the tee. He wasn't as good as Xander was, but despite missing a 16-inch putt, he still finished 7th on the day in putting. So I think Jacob tweeted this out from the First Cut Podcast Twitter account, but his JT's putting on Sunday was a absolute roller coaster. I mean, it was all over the place, and that's unlike him. The thing we always talk about with him, with Xander, with Jon Rahm, they don't really have holes. I mean, they're so good at so many different things. And I'm surprised at how how long JT's putting has been sort of an issue, sort of popping up really since the restart. And I don't know. I don't know how you snap out of that. I think that he will at some point, but it's definitely a problem right now.
Well, he's brought in a short game coach in Jon Rahm, who's on a bit of a probation right now. But Jon Rahm's more of a wager expert than anything else. They have spent time on the greens from what I've seen. But here's the thing. You're missing a 16-inch putt. That's not green reading over there. That is frustration setting in, and you're allowing the situation to get the better of you, which is something the guy he's trying to chase down is not allowing to happen.
Yeah.
There were a few tee shots today where I watched Justin Thomas give me left and then give me right. And so, yeah, statistically, again, it might look like he is just doing it all great. But I don't think, and if you probably pulled him aside and said, Justin, are you hitting the thing as clean as you can? He'd probably tell you no. And then because of that, because now he's battling the putter, you've got divided interests. And the one thing he's going to have to do if he wants to be relevant tomorrow, he's got to get the focus singular. The job is to hit shot number 1 into play. Hit shot number 2 on the green to a place where you can play aggression. And you start to build on rounds like that. I mean, it's Justin Thomas who's got all the physical gifts in the world developing the major championship approach to tomorrow's round of golf. Because it's still possible. He has the weaponry. But the number one weapon is this thing between your ears. And he's not going to out-ball strike Dustin Johnson. But he's going to have to start out-thinking and out-attituding him. And that's the big deal. And if he does that, because there has been an uptick in the putting, as you mentioned, he's got to put himself in a place where he can putt aggressively, putt up the hill. I don't care if the greens are faster or slower. They are pure. But if you're putting downhill over here, you are putting on the defense, and that makes read hard. If you're putting up the hill, I think they're pretty basic to read. I've seen guys making putts from all over. So you've really got to get the mind singular.
I think he is already out-ball striking Dustin Johnson, by the way, this week at the Tour Championship. He had
I was going to try to confirm it quickly, but I couldn't get it up fast enough.
I want to read this quote from JT about his putter after the round. He said, I didn't feel as bad as I guess my stats were showing. I was awfully optimistic for being last in the field by a mile. That's for sure. I don't really know why, which is kind of a funny quote, but he did putt it better on Sunday in the third round. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of that stuff, like, I think Mark makes a good point of like, okay, the stats show me that he's ball striking, but it doesn't account for, you can gain a lot of strokes on one shot and then lose a lot on the other, on the next. And you're a little bit all over the place rather than just being consistent, hitting fairways, consistent. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think JT's going to be fascinating on Monday.
Here's the thing. Not all 5-footers, not all 10-footers, not all 20-footers are the same. And it is very much the case around here. Not all fairway misses are the same either. This place with these sliding dog legs, it's way better to miss it on a certain side of the hole than the other. And that's why if you've got a one-dimensional miss going on, which is what Dustin Johnson is sort of showing right now, even though he's missing, you've got something you can aim, and on a lot of these holes, you can play from the rough to a green. But if you're on the wrong side coming out the rough, you've got to cover some bunker, and a lot of the bunkers are pitched up in the fronts of the greens. So if you're coming in from the wrong side, you're landing it on something that's going to trampoline and jettison the ball to the back of the green. So you have to sort of be in control of your miss a little bit, be able to put yourself in a place where you're not putting defensively. Because if you're putting defensively and you're leaking confidence, I mean, that is a horrid combination to have to deal with, especially under pressure. And then when you're trying to chase someone down.
Mark, tell me what you think about, because you'll be better on this than Rick and I would be, but like, it seems like, and the broadcast was talking about this, especially on like a hole like 18, right? Where it wants you to draw it a little bit, but these guys just keep hitting fade. Do you think that, I mean, they can draw it, right? Like at that level, you can kind of hit whatever shots. Is it just a comfort thing? Is it Is that a fairway or like into the rough where you want to miss on the right? What's the deal with only hitting one type of shot, even when some of the holes demand you to hit the other way?
Bobby Jones didn't say this. It was Sam Snead that said Sam Snead that said you got to dance with the lady that brung you.
Yeah.
If you got a fade going on and you try and hit it in the interest of shaping the ball with a fairway, you are lowering your probability. And now I'm getting into your strokes gain metrics, because golf is ultimately a probability game where you're trying to stack the odds in your favor. Now, a hole like 18, I don't feel you have to draw it off there. What I don't know, because I wasn't listening to the broadcast, I saw a large part of it, even though we were on the golf course. There's a lot of these holes just had like a little bit of an awkward breeze where, like trying to draw one up against the left wind, you really had to have it going on ball striking wise. And so bearing wind in mind, bearing where the miss is going to be, it's all fine and dandy for us to say, well, you should be drawing it over here. Let me tell you what, these guys are human beings just like you and me. And even though they're superstars, they don't always have all of the cache of weapons operating. And so you've got to make a plan to get the thing around. And that's what you referenced it. The DJ did this yesterday. He kept himself alive. Kept himself alive today, kept himself relevant by playing the final 3 holes and final 8 holes in 3 under par by crook or however. But he kept himself in it. And sometimes you've just got to do that.
Yeah.
All right. There's a lot of firepower on this leaderboard. We got to talk about Rahm. We got to talk about Morikawa. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. All right, gentlemen, a couple other guys we cannot move on without. I'll split them up. KP, I'll go to you on Jon Rahm. I feel like we kind of got robbed a little bit here. I mean, he's having a great week, but if I would have told you Jon Rahm shot the second best round of the day in round 1, the second best round of the day in round 3, you'd be thinking he's not 6 shots back of Dustin Johnson. It was that 74 he shoots in round 2 that kind of played himself out of this.
Sorry, my wife just came in to grab the car keys.
Does she have any hot takes? Does she have a hot take for us?
She just left.
Oh,
I wish she was so. She's got all kinds of takes. Yeah, we'll deal with that later. Rahm, look, it's weird, right? Because this is so his last 5 rounds, 4 of them lights out. I mean, just awesome. The weekend at Olympia Fields. And then the first and third here at Eastlake, and the second was atrocious. I mean, he was so like out of character on Saturday, and this is I think this is a little bit like he didn't have his stuff on Saturday. I can't remember. I think his approach shot was like lost 3 strokes or something. And this is the part where Mark was talking about earlier that I think is so. It gets, I don't know if it gets lost in the strokes gain stuff, but it gets lost in translation where can you turn the 74 into a 71? Can you turn the 74 into a 72 and give yourself a chance over the last 2 rounds? And I think normally Rahm's actually pretty decent at that, or at least he has been over the last year or 2. And he wasn't this week. And so it just takes such a Herculean effort the other 3 days when you're shooting 74 in round 2. It's so difficult to make that up when somebody's rolling like DJ. But look, like I don't know. I mean, the way Rahm is hitting it, he could shoot 63 on Monday, 64. DJ could shoot 71 or 72, and then all of a sudden we're where we're at last week in a playoff with those 2. So I don't know. It would be fun to see.
It certainly would be fun to see. It was fun to watch friend of the pod, Collin Morikawa, come in 31. He holed out from a bunker, which, to use Kyle's words, was impossible. Although I guess it wasn't because he did it. Unbelievable stuff. Mark, Morikawa, I mean, he was 1 over in round 1. He's now fired back-to-back, or he's gone 65 on Saturday, 67 on Sunday. We know this kid's got so much game, but he just continues to prove it week in and week out.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick take on Rahm. The double bogey on 15 in round 2 was unforgivable. Where that hole was cut, it's sort of taking the water out of play, and to fan one out to the right-hand side. For a guy who statistically, because I'll tell you this, I have not seen Rahm play much this week, so I don't have any insightful stuff. But just looking through the numbers, it doesn't make sense. The guy who's supposed to be swinging well misses the target by 40, 50 feet with a 6-iron in your hand.
And it was never online. I was watching it on Saturday, and it started out on the right hand edge, and it just went like way right into it was bad.
I was playing, it was probably 5-iron for him. Sung Jae, we did about 4-iron there. So I find that curious. And just to say that, because that was an area where he bogeyed 9 and he made another bogey, and the round was off the rails a little bit, and all of a sudden he's arriving on a hole where you've just got to knuckle down, hit one into dry land, make 3 and move on.
Yeah.
Next bogey after that. So that speaks to a guy who was perhaps a little headless at that stage. Kudos to him. He comes back with a bogey-free round of 66 again to stay relevant. Now, to Morikawa, are any one of you two guys surprised that the guy's playing well here this week? Not at all. Not for the examination that this golf course poses. I am, because I watched him a bit in practice Thursday. I'm getting my days mixed up too. And I'm a bit surprised that it has been a little loose by his lofty standard. But it's also been a long season. And this guy, remember, he's still on the heels of a career-defining victory. And I wouldn't be surprised at all. I don't know even if he's managed to celebrate the victory at the PGA Championship. But they're hangovers from these things. And I think it's just looked a little lethargic. I mean, this opening round especially. But since then, since he's sort of gained some traction, he's put together good rounds, but there's still one too many mistakes started in there. And so I think he's capable of cleaning it up. But at spotting Dustin Johnson 7, I mean, goodness gracious, I might see the Messiah before that happens.
All right, well, here's the $1 million question, gentlemen. Does anybody catch DJ? If you think that he runs away with this, you can win $100 if you lay 500, thanks to our friends over at William Hill. Justin Thomas, 10-1. Xander Schauffele, 11-1. KP, is it an 18-hole victory lap for Dustin on Monday?
I know the days are so messed up. Yeah, I think so. I think JT at 10-1 is interesting. What did I say last Saturday night? Joaquin Neiman at 20. Yeah. I think was the one that I gave, and that got interesting for a while. But it's just, I don't know, because JT's hitting the ball as well as he is, especially with his irons throughout the week. That's at least intriguing because, look, I mean, we talked about this at Northern Trust. DJ blows the HSBC Champions lead. I think he was up 6 on Koepka, and then Rose ends up winning back in 2017. So it's at least in play. It's probably worse. I mean, it probably doesn't happen 1 out of every 10 times, which JT is 10-1. It's probably more like 1 out of every 20. But who knows? I think Monday's going to be interesting because we don't talk about it a ton. There's a lot of money on the table on the 18th green at Eastlake. I mean, even if you're the difference between where Morikawa was in 5th, if he gets to 2nd, that's another $2.5 million. I mean, and he's 2 strokes back of 2nd place. So also I would win the one and done league. He probably cares more about the $2.5 million, but
yeah, it's worth it. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think Monday's going to be super interesting, but I think DJ wins.
Not so fast. You're not going to win the one and done league if my boy happens to put up something in the low 60s too.
Well, it's going to have to be like a 62.
Well, he's just going to get in the top 3 with our betting structure. Remember?
True, that's true.
Yeah, what you need is Mark. You need a big tie for 3rd. For him and Rory to just sneak it, like 7 guys tied for 3rd, and Rory ends up being one of them.
Well, look, we did this podcast, the setup, and I said, Dustin Johnson, you cannot spot this guy 2 strokes. That was at the beginning of the week. 5. I mean, you had 4 rounds to catch up with. You had 4 rounds to catch up with DJ, and you giving him 2 if you're Jon Rahm, and 3 if you're Justin Thomas, whatever, Webb, or whoever it was. Now these guys are having to give him 5 over 18 holes. They're going to need to get off to a super fast. You're going to have to par 1, par 2, and then you can get after the course a bit. You're going to survive 7, 8, 9, and then the back 9 sort of opens up a little bit for you. But if Dustin gets out and he picks off 1 on 3, birdies the par fives. That's already like 67. No, I think it's a rump, and I think it's a due coronation. He becomes the Player of the Year, the FedEx Cup champ, galvanizes world number one. I think it's Dustin Johnson's one day.
And don't roll the tapes from the way that Rick and I were talking about him like 7 weeks ago.
Destroy them.
They are not good. Last thing, I know we're going to get out of here after Rick gives his pick, but I wanted to reiterate. I thought we always yell at each other about strokes gained. I thought your point about Xander, about not short-sighting himself, and the fact that, look, the computer reads 50 feet on either side the same way, but it's not the same, right? And I thought that was just such a good point by you that us nerds don't think about, don't pick up on, don't consider as we're watching this stuff. So all that to say, I became smarter about thinking about golf, if only by a degree, by doing this podcast. So thank you.
Well, you youngsters bring the old boy onto the show, don't you? I mean, you've got to have just a touch of insight.
What we should do is, in our 2 days of off season, we should come up with strokes gained V2, which looks at dangerous sides and safe sides, and we recalculate it from there. It could be a combination of all of this.
We need topography. We need a topographical map.
That's why you have me on course. But that's what I was saying to producer Jacob before we got on the air. I'm like, Jacob, from Tuesday morning on, I'm a golf fan. When I show up on HQ or this thing, I'm going to have watched TV and strokes gained just like you guys. So the on-course stuff will be left behind, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I love it. Well, we're going to enjoy it. I'm way up against it. DJ's going to win it. He's going to be your Player of the Year. We'll crown him on Monday evening, or we'll crown somebody else. Join us then. You can find Mark Immelman on Twitter at Mark_Immelman. You can find Kyle Porter at Kyle Porter CBS. Thank you, producer Jacob, letting me go long on this episode. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.